Hey guys, it's Joel. I got a couple requests for a video on how I repair my 40-gallon breeder screen lids. You can do this with a 20 long as well, or really any aquarium that has a sliding screen lid that is this style. So a really common issue with these lids is they break along the sides typically, but it is possible to rip them in the middle. That happens too. So I'm going to show you what you need to repair this. So here we have some tools. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. This is aluminum metal screen, and you can get this in the window and screen door repair section. And then you're going to need some scissors. And then this is called a spline roller. It's also known as a screen roller. And you can find this and the screen in the same department. And then you're going to need an X-Acto blade. So I want you to keep in mind that when you're cutting all this screen, you're going to leave really sharp pieces of screen all over the floor. So I'd recommend it if you do this outside. That would probably be best, but not everyone has the freedom to do that. So if you do it on linoleum, make sure you sweep it up, or on carpet, make sure you vacuum it, which is what I'm going to be doing, because it is quite a safety hazard, leaving really sharp metal pieces all over the carpet or floor. So, alright, let's get to it. So, we're going to come down here and flip this upside down. And this has already been repaired. So I'm going to kind of show you something that I did the first time around. Is you're going to encounter plastic covering this entire part. So what I did is I used the scissors, or you could use, tin snips, and I kind of crudely snipped this all away so that we can see the track gap here, which is where this pulls out. Now, you're going to kind of want to use whatever tool you've got and kind of just pry these metal pieces up, and sometimes they're kind of hard, especially if they're installed right. So these little metal bars you're going to need to keep, so make sure you don't bend them too bad or damage them. So you're just going to pry these out and make sure you don't bend them too much because they will break. They're kind of fragile. And got one more. Sometimes they come out easier than others, just depends. Alright, so we got 4 pieces out. This is 2 black short pieces and 2 black long pieces, as you can see. So now you have your old crappy ripped screen, and you're going to want to discard this because there's really no reason to keep it. It's damaged, so we're going to discard that. So now you have this plastic frame, and it does come apart, so you're going to want to make sure that it is completely connected. And set these aside, and these. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to roll out the screen and kind of line it up like so. And you want to cut up just enough for it to kind of overhang a little bit, like so. And you're going to cut down, and this is where you get a lot of the sharp metal pieces falling out. Okay, so we're done with the screen. So here we go. So now you're going to use your screen spline roller, and you can do it without the spline roller, but I noticed that it's really effective with the spline roller. So what I like to do is I start with one of the short ends, and you just roll this along the line, and it makes a perfect little indent. And then you're going to want to get your bar and make sure it's nice and straight. Sometimes they're kind of warped from pulling them out. And you're going to want to lace it in like so and get it centered. And then you're going to use your fingers, and you're going to have to wedge this bar back in. And it can kind of be hard on the fingers, so some people might want to use gloves. But I prefer not to use gloves because it gives me a little bit better control. I can feel where the bar is going. So, alright, so like I said, it's kind of hard to get this in. So once it's fully in, you really want to make sure it's in all the way. So press it real good. But once that's in, you're going to want to do the other short side. So you're going to want to make sure that it's stretched, because you don't want the lid to be loose or floppy. So then you're going to do the spline roller again across the line. We're going to get the short piece in. And this honestly is the hardest part about this. It's really not that hard, but it's definitely the most difficult task out of all these tasks. So all right. So you get both short pieces in, and you make sure they're in good. And then you're going to want to roll down the long side. And you'll find that these larger pieces are harder to get in than the shorter pieces. So you might find it to be a teeny bit of a challenge, but it's not too bad. And again, it does kind of want to pull inwards, so you're going to want to find your groove you created and then start getting this piece in. And this might take me a minute, so apologies for the awkward silence. I might have to speed some of this up because the long pieces take a lot longer. So and I don't know if you can see this, but like I said, it's wanting to pull inwards, so I'm kind of like, as I'm going down the line, I'm kind of pulling that groove more towards me to get the groove in so that it's all in place right. This is definitely hard on your fingertips, but once you get past the halfway point, it gets a lot easier. Alright, so that's, as you can see, that's lacing in a lot faster. Alright, and then you want to double back and make sure you get this whole bar in. This is somewhat a tough task, but it's definitely better than having to scrap your entire tank and pay lots of money for a new tank just so you can get a new lid. So you want to get this in good, and I believe this is in good. So then you're going to want to do the last side, which will be the long side. And again, you want to stretch. You want to make sure that this is not loose here. It has to be stretched tight, and I kind of run my hand on it to get any of these crease bend marks out, which they really don't matter, but for aesthetic purposes it's nice to get it out. So we're going to roll down here one more time, and we're going to make sure that this bar is completely straight. Looks like there's a little bit of a warp in it. You want to be careful when you're bending these because they do easily break. So alright, we're going to get this in. You'll find that starting the long piece is the hardest part. This is the real hard part. It's just getting it to stay so that you can work down the rest of the line. And you don't need to get them all the way in, you just need to get them in enough so that they stay put while you get the rest of the line down, and then you can work your way back and get them in better. So Alright, working down the line. And sometimes with these, they're just really ornery. So sometimes you might find that it's helpful to use this spline or a flathead screwdriver to kind of press down on the bar. You got to be careful that you don't slip and rip that brand new screen you're installing. But sometimes your fingers just don't do the trick and you got to apply a little bit more force to it or whatever. So, alright, we are almost done here. Okay. So once you get this bar in, or really all the 4 bars in, good, and you're confident that they're going to hold, that's the most important part, is making sure that they're in and they're going to hold. So once you know that they're going to hold good, and they're in permanently, you're going to just look it all over, see it's all good. Alright, looks good. Okay, so the next part is pretty easy. You're going to want to use your X-Acto knife or a razor blade or whatever you got. Mine's kind of already mod up, so I don't mind using this, but if you get a new one, just accept the fact that you're gonna ruin your blade pretty much by doing this. But it is a necessary step. So what we're going to be doing is cutting off this excess overlapping screen that you don't need. And you're going to want to just take your knife and run the blade down the line. You don't want to do it on the screen side, obviously. You're doing it on the outer side of the black bar. And you're going to run your blade down. You're going to want to do this several times. And then this just kind of, after a couple times, it pulls away, as you can see. And this is it's making a mess all over the carpet, as you can see. But you're going to just kind of work your way down, like so. And there you go. Go around the corners. And it doesn't really matter where you go with it, but you just got to get all the 4 sides. And you may find that sometimes the brackets pull out, and if that happens, just press it back in before that screen pops out, ideally. So you're going to want to be cutting off any leftover wires that are poking out here, because you definitely don't want to cut yourself in the future when you go to slide open the lid. So basically we got the most of this stuff off, and we're just kind of working our way around, cutting off anything that we see. I kind of do like a little bit of a test to see if there's anything sharp by just kind of brushing my hand across, and it tends to kind of lift out anything that's remaining. So yeah, say I found some here. And you kind of just, sometimes they kind of pull out like this, and you get them all the way to the end, and then you can just snip them out. Typically it's pretty easy. You just gotta be kind of finicky and look around for anything remaining here. And then we got this little piece. Alright, so now that you're done with trimming off all the screen, I try to kind of shake it so that any loose stuff kind of comes out. And basically this is the finished product. And it's, might not be as sturdy as the original, but it's definitely a repaired screen door that works. So just remember that you're going to want to vacuum this entire area, or if you have linoleum, you're going to want to sweep. So that was how to repair a sliding screen lid, and I'm Joel, and I hope you guys were able to use that information. Thanks.